Who's going to rent my property? Well, if you're about to buy an investment property, you're probably thinking, what's my tenant going to be like? After all, your tenant is your customer. So you don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a property, then find no one wants to rent it. So what does the average tenant look like and what sort of house do they want? Well, that's what you're going to learn today. I'm Ed, an economist here at Opes Partners, and this is Property Now. The average renter looks similar to the average homeowner. About 60% are just one family living in a house. About 1 in 4 households that rent are just single people, which is slightly higher than the 1 in 5 homeowners who are living on their own. So renters are a bit more likely to be single, and I think that makes sense because if you're on one income, it's harder to save for a deposit or afford a mortgage, and it's more easier to buy a home if you're part of a couple. So that makes sense. What's surprising for many investors is there aren't quite as many flatting situations as you might think. Only 9% of renter households flat. That's a group of adults that aren't related. But let's come back to these single families. So what do these guys look like? Well, most of them are couples with children, about 36% of them all up. Then we've got couples who don't have kids. These are often what we call dinks. Double income, no kids. These guys are great to rent to because they've got money, so they pay the rent. But there is a big difference between renters and owners when it comes to the number of renters who are single parents with kids. There's a big difference between renters and owners there. And that's probably because kids are expensive. So it's hard to build up a deposit or get a mortgage approved where you've got one income to raise a family. On top of that, some of those people will have been through relationship breakups. Maybe they owned a house before, then the family assets were split during the breakup and they aren't able to buy a house yet. The cool thing about this data is it gives us clues about what sort of house we should buy if we want to appeal to tenants. But just before we get into that, if you like learning about property in this data-backed way, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We release new videos every Monday and Wednesday. Renters prefer smaller homes, so 1 and 2 bedroom homes are much more popular for renters than larger homes with 4 or 5 bedrooms. Now, to be clear, 3 bedroom homes are still the most popular, but those larger homes, 4 or more bedrooms, they're really popular with people who own their own homes. And that's probably because owners have a bit more money. They can afford more space. So a homeowner might have raised their family in a 4-bedroom home. Now the kids have flown the nest, but they still live there. So it's affordable to have that larger home because they've paid off the mortgage over time. Now, if you're a single renter, you're probably not going to pay more money just to have extra rooms that you don't need. Now, that doesn't mean that all renters live in 1 and 2 bedroom homes, but 40% of renters live in a house with 1 or 2 bedrooms compared to only 16% of homeowners. If we look at 4+ bedrooms, it's completely the other way. 38% of homeowners live in a house with 4 or more bedrooms compared to only 19% of renters. So this is really interesting because what it shows us is that people who rent don't need as much space or aren't willing to pay the money to get that extra space. So if you're an investor, don't shy away from smaller homes. That's what many tenants are actually looking for. But let's dig a bit deeper and look at a specific suburb to get a sense of who your tenants might be. One of my favourite investing suburbs is Addington in Christchurch, and the reason is it is in the top 15% of suburbs when it comes to house prices going up fast, also known as capital growth, and it is in the top 30% of suburbs when it comes to rental returns or yields. So this suburb teaches us about the demographics of an investment hotspot. And what do we see? Well, on average, renters skew younger. And of course they're a bit younger. They're at the stage where they can't afford to buy yet. They're renting while they either save a deposit or until they build up enough income to get a mortgage. As they get older, they start buying houses. So as an investor, you're more likely to rent to someone between 20 to 35 compared to someone who's 90 years old. And renters also earn a bit less. that's not surprising that there are some low-income renters. After all, people who don't earn a lot can't afford homes. But it is surprising that there are some renters on really good household incomes. Over a quarter of renters in Addington have a household income of $100,000 or more. And since the last census, where this data comes from, household incomes have gone up 27%. So this number will be way higher right now. Of course, the sort of tenant that you're going to get depends on the sort of house that you actually buy. A nicer, more premium property will attract higher income tenants. And if you want to invest in the right property in a good suburb like Addington, you've got to head over to opespartners.co.nz and book a free portfolio planning session, because here at Opes, we help regular Kiwis grow their wealth through new built investment properties.